Sometimes it's good to have a five-star defensive end in your backyard, especially one who wants to commit early and help build a class. No, I'm not talking about Jack Sawyer. No, this is not 2019. This is 2025, and we're talking about Jameer Whyce, the number 33 player, ironically enough, and the number 5 defensive lineman in the 2028 recruiting class. He becomes the second member of the Buckeyes 2028 recruiting class, joining Elijah Newman Hall, the running back out of Tampa, Florida, who's the number 65 player and the number 4 running back in the country, according to 247 Sports. The composite, he is number 65 and number 3, so around the same point. But Andrew, I don't know, what's going on with Ohio State's defensive line recruiting?
Yeah. This was certainly helpful for the Buckeyes because you look at 2026 and you have 4 defensive linemen committed. You only have 1 defensive end. And I think we all feel pretty good about that one end, but there may be some help there. The interior of that class you're looking at and going, okay, you feel okay. You don't have anybody in 27, but now you had somebody in 28. And like you said, he's a 5-star kid out of Dayton, Ohio, right out of your backyard, basically. So, this was big, I think, for Ohio State. I went and saw him play in, I think it was week 2 of the high school football season. It was the night before Ohio State played Texas. So I went and saw him play. He was on campus the next day to see the Buckeyes play the Longhorns. This is somebody that had always kind of talked about Ohio State in a way that, kind of let you know that he was very, very interested in the program. He's got a brother that's on the team right now at Trotwood Madison that's going to play at Purdue next year. Like he's got, experience in this realm, right? And his family kind of is related to this, and you can kind of see how Ohio State would view him. So, he's 6'5", 280 pounds. Like he's listed at 6'4", 270. I saw him play and they told me he was 6'5", 280. They have him playing a lot because, again, it is important to remember he is a sophomore in high school right now. He is just finishing up his sophomore season. So he is playing left tackle for Trotwood Madison. He did play defensive end. I saw them play Fairmont out in Kettering. So if you know Ohio high school football, it's a triple option offense. So I didn't get to see him, rush the passer or anything like that. But the athleticism is definitely there. The physicality is definitely there. And you see somebody that big and you think to yourself, okay, this kid can develop into an interior defensive lineman and a 4-down front. I don't know if he's a nose per se, but he could definitely play as a 3-tech and potentially as a nose. I think you could definitely see him play as an edge rusher in a 4-down front. I think you could see him play as a 3-4 defensive end where, you are kind of lined up with outside backers that are more in the realm of an Arvell Reese type of player, right? Outside backers that, are more Episatanale type of players, or maybe they're a stand-up. I don't think that is his future. This is a guy who's going to have his hand in the dirt somewhere along the offensive line, anywhere from a 0 to a 5 technique. And that's over the center and that's outside the tackle. So I think that Ohio State got a good one here. And I think this was an important recruit for Ohio State to land because you look at kind of where this is going. We mentioned Kari Wilder, or I mentioned Kari Wilder at the top. You feel really good about his edge rusher. You have some projects on the defensive line on the interior. I look at, Simeon and Perez and those guys. And, I think you feel decent about it. 27 is going to be a massive recruiting class for Ohio State on the defensive line. And it certainly helps when you are backlogging 27 with a kid like this in 28 who can kind of help you put this class together because you got a 5-star kid in Dayton with Jameer Brown in 27, and now you have a 5-star kid on defensive line in 28 with Jameer Whyce. You're muted.
I'm reading the story that Gillis wrote back in September when he went down there to see Jameer, and he asked him what the Ohio State offer would mean to him. And here's his quote: Our head coach went to Ohio State. My principal went to Ohio State. Our coach played wide receiver. His name is Jeff Graham. Our principal played middle linebacker. His name is Michael McCray. They said it's been a long time since they've offered somebody from Trotwood, so it means a lot for me, my family, and the school. So that answers the question of should we be worried about this kid flipping anywhere else over the next 2 months? There seem to be a lot of people in his sphere who are very much all for Ohio State recruiting Trotwood and specifically recruiting Jameer Whyce. I guess the question is, Jack Sawyer ended up meaning a lot to this program, obviously, but before the Scoop and Sawyer, before the, getting everybody to come back another year, before being a captain, before being a football player, he was a 5-star recruit from Ohio who grew up wanting to be a Buckeye. And so there was an element of when Jack Sawyer committed so early that his recruitment was going to become boring,
Right.
because he wasn't going anywhere. And I understand this is a new day and age, and so I'm sure over the next 2 years, until he can sign on a dotted line, there will be, hey, is this kid going to flip here? Hey, is he going to visit here? Everything that Jameer Brown is going through. But 5-star kid with this much Ohio State around him, this seems like something that is done, regardless of what is going to happen over the next 2 years. And I get it's 28, so a lot can happen. But barring something significantly crazy happening, I mean like Ryan Day leaving, is it fair to assume that you can write his name in a very strong pencil?
Yeah, I think that's okay. I think that's
Okay.
fair. You mentioned it with Jack. I don't know if, just because frankly I don't know Jameer personally well enough, because that's a
Yeah, because he's
personality thing
14
too.
years old, so
Yeah,
sure, you're not supposed
yeah,
to
he's
know him
15
that
years old.
well.
I've spoken to him once or twice in my life. Like,
Yeah.
this is a thing where you got to have the right personality for it. So I don't know if this is he's hosting kids for the visits like during COVID and
Right.
like so I don't know if it's that, but it definitely helps when you have a fixture like that on your defensive line that is so close to home. And yeah, there's probably going to be something that comes up in the next couple of months, couple of years, where it's, oh yeah, Alabama called me the other day, or Texas called me, or Michigan called me, or Notre Dame called me. Like, we're seeing that. I think you said with Jameer Brown right now, he's taking a visit to Notre Dame this weekend to go see the Notre Dame USC game. But I think it's going to be one of those situations where it's like, yeah, we really don't have a ton of indication that Ohio State has anything to worry about there. I think that's as far as this thing is going to go. I have, everything I know about Jameer, and like you read it off. Like, I think there are people in his corner that probably wanted him to go to Ohio State. He really wanted to go to Ohio State. And now you get to be the fixture of a class that, you can really start to build this thing out. And when we talk about a 26 kid, like we did a video about Kamari Bing, it is much more, this is what this kid's going to be. This is what this kid's going to look like. This is the role he's going to play, blah, 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 blah. With the 28 kid, he doesn't have a driver's license yet. At least I don't think. So it's like there's still a lot of physical maturing and physical development and mental maturing and mental development. His coach, when I talked to him after the game, he was like, he wanted to put him at left tackle because he wanted to make him as versatile as possible. He wanted to make the team as good as possible. But he also thought that could help him grow and see the game from a different way, right? When you're playing offense, you learn tricks of the trade maybe that you couldn't pick up as easily or as quickly as just playing defensive end or defensive tackle. So, this is a kid who's going to continue to grow. He's mentally, physically, emotionally, everything like that. He is just a high schooler. He is just a sophomore. So the finished product, we'll see. We'll find out. But the fact that you are adding a 5-star defensive lineman from Ohio gives you a lot, like you were talking about, of those Jack Sawyer qualities where it's like, hey, we can build off of this, right? We can move forward off of this. You have a running back, but he's committed, and he's from Florida. Elijah Newman Hall, he committed pretty quickly. And Ohio State typically does not take these commitments without feeling pretty good about it. Like, even in 27, who do you have? A quarterback, which quarterback recruiting happens early, who grew up an Ohio State fan with ties to Ohio. You have Jameer Brown, a kid from Dayton, who's a 5-star receiver, and Jeremiah Smith's little brother. Like, that's what you got in 27. And in 28, you take a 5-star in-state kid from Ohio and you feel pretty good about it. So this is a really, really nice start for Ohio State's 2028 recruiting class. And you can just kind of map this thing out and say, you know what? It gives you nice bookends.
I think it's funny to hear you say he still has to physically mature when he's 6'4", 270 pounds.
He still might hit a growth spurt. He's 15.
If he hits another growth spurt, I'm going to introduce him to Jake Diebler.
Yep, he should start learn some post moves.
I'm going to introduce him.
Yeah,
to
he hits 6'8" or 6'9". Learn the block.
I'm going to
learn how to make some post moves on the block.
Yeah, I'm going to introduce him to Jake Diebler if he has another growth spurt. 614-350-3315. 5-star defensive lineman Jameer Whyce becomes the second member of Ohio State's 2028 recruiting class, which is off to a strong start. A top 100 running back out of Florida, and now a 5-star defensive lineman to get things started. And another reason for Larry Johnson to stick around. Man, he keeps, every time we throw those retirement rumors out there, he finds a new reason for why he's not going to retire. 614-350-3315, 2-week free trial, $3.99 after that. That's the first place we went with this news before we did a video, wrote a poster, did anything else about it. Ohio State, hot on the recruiting trail. A lot of commitments across multiple classes happening as Ohio State heads into its final game before its last bye week of the season, and then it'll be focused all on recruiting for a week. So let's see what happens next. Maybe they'll pull another 5-star out of the bag from somewhere else. Who knows? But 614-350-3315. For Andrew Gillis, I'm Stephen Means. See ya.